How many of y'all remember your parents, mom or dad, doesn't make any difference, in a specific act of encouraging you? Something you did that didn't maybe come out so right, or could have been a little better, or could. How many of you remember mom or dad saying, we could do better? I do. You know what's one of the most vivid things in my mind? I used to pride myself on being a pretty good athlete. And in my day growing up, back in the 50s and 60s, they didn't have all these soccer leagues and little football leagues, and none of that existed. The only thing that existed in those days was baseball. Y'all remember that? The guys maybe? You started out on a little farm team. They didn't even have the pee-wee leagues where you put it on a stick and hit it. But you started out in the farm teams, and then all these little kids, the bat was bigger than you were. And there are all these little kids swinging and swinging and swinging. And then you went from the farm teams to the little league. Remember, that was like being a professional player then, if you made little league. Then after the little league came the pony leagues. That's right, the pony leagues. And then after the ponies came the legion leagues. That's when you were like in high school, you were 17 years old. A lot of high schools in those days didn't have baseball programs. They didn't. So, but nowadays they all got baseball teams and football teams and soccer teams and volleyball teams and everything. But see, back in those days they didn't have all that. A lot of schools didn't. And I went to a little Catholic school and we had very little, nothing. But nevertheless, I played on the city teams. And we were up for a championship, and it was a pony leagues. I was pony leagues. And I was up to bat, and I was a pretty good batter. I'm not blowing my own horn. But I was a pretty good batter. Couldn't hit it always over the fence. In fact, I think my whole career, I had 3 over the fence. 3 in 20 years. But I could always hit it out to the fence. And many times it was a stand-up double easy, or slide in for 3 if I was fast enough, and I was. So I got up there, championship league, winning run is on third, and coach is saying, all right, Chandler, just do what you do. This is a piece of cake, and it's ours. And I got a little cocky with myself, and pride goeth before the fall. And my old man is sitting back there watching. I got caught on one window shopping. I was just sitting there waiting. Second one. I'm going, oh man, I got 2 strikes on me, no balls or nothing. Come on! On the way home in the car, not nary a word was said. And Dad looked back and he said, son, you took some real good swipes at that ball. You got strength in those arms. Next time you'll hit it out of the park. That's what my dad said to me. Knowing full well. Nobody had to tell me I screwed up that day. You know what? Of all the people at that field, visitors, players, coaches, refs alike, no one knew better how much he screwed up than me. I knew it. And Dad knew I knew it. So in his dad wisdomness, he turned around and said, you look good up there. You got 2 other hits. You took some real power swings at that ball, and you got strength in those arms. I'll never forget that. There I was, standing pretty in my suit, but I just lost the championship game. Could have brought that man on third home with a simple little hit. But I didn't care about the game. What made the biggest impression was Dad just turned around and said, oh, son, took some good swipes at those balls. Powerful. I want to be that kind of dad. I hope I was that kind of dad with my boys growing up. I've tried to be. Of course, when you raise Neanderthals, you got to hit them with a club every once in a while. That's just to wake them up for middle school. But I hope somewhere in all the years, they're grown men now, I hope that somewhere in all the years I was that kind of dad. And I hope they have at least one member in me saying, piece of cake, son, we'll get through this. I don't know. But I do know the power of encouragement. They chose, the apostles amongst them who were praying in the Spirit, chose one man called Joseph from Cyprian, but he was also called Barnabas. Barnabas was not his name. It was a nickname. It means the son of encouragement. This guy is so filled with the Spirit. He's so positive all the time, even in the midst of horrible failure. He'll find the bright side, the golden side. He'll lift up the beaten, the broken, the downtrodden, clean them up and say, let's do it again. So they called him Barnabas. Wow. That was a great nickname, which became his name. Barnabas, the son of encouragement. The guy, when you just lost the championship game, is telling you, man, you got strength in those arms, powerful swings. Next time, you're going to put it out of the park. I know it. You know, many years ago when I was in Chicago, living up there and working on my doctorate degree, I read a newspaper story that kind of struck me. In the Chicago Tribune, I don't know if y'all have been to Chicago, but Chicago has a very extensive system of elevated trains there. They call them the L's. So, you know, you ride the L into the city or certain parts of the city, or you can even go all the way downtown to what they call the Loop. And the Loop is basically the dividing line between the north side of the city and the south side of the city. And the north side in the business district down one, Miracle Mile there, comes around, it comes down, is it LaSalle Street or something like that? Anyway, it comes down one street and it goes around and comes back up Clark or something like that, or Division. Anyway, that's the Loop. And you're coming down the north side. If you live out in the burbs, then you come down and you get off and you work in all the giant buildings downtown and the office buildings. And then it loops around and goes back and does all that. But anyway, the Loop is very famous in Chicago, and a lot of activities go on in the Loop. Anyway, this was a story about a young man who was, making his way in business, probably at one of the advertising agencies, because there's a billion of them there. And he rode the Loop every day, Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, they're elevated trains up high on sticks. And the train goes by right past, these apartment buildings and condos are like this far from the track. And if you're in one of those rooms or condos that's right next to the track, every, 18 minutes or 17 minutes, you hear, you get used to it over time. But it's that close, it's that there. If you got your windows open and it goes by, everybody can see, oh, you're having a steak for dinner. Whoa, must have got a raise. And they can see everything in there. Anyway, this was a story about a young boy who rode that every day. And just as it comes around the Loop, now it gets real slow around the Loop. Other places, it's flying. But the L, when it hits the Loop, it can't fly. It'll come off and, crash, and Spider-Man won't be there to save it. So they got to slow way down, and they can slow down, and you hear the wheels, and noise coming around. And it's during that time where this boy would look in this woman's window every day as he came by, because she left it open. And he saw that she was some kind of invalid or handicapped lady, and she laid in her bed and she left her window open, I guess because of the breeze. And she had, an IV hooked up to her, and just so sad. And every day he went past, she just looked so sad. Like she was waiting to die. And this went on for months. To where finally the kid couldn't stand it anymore. He had to know what's wrong with this lady. So he wrote down the address and he looked it up. He did some research, got on his computers and that stuff, and he found out her name and he found out her address. And he wrote her, went and bought a wonderful get well card. Hope you feel better. Hope you have at least a great day today and all this stuff. And he wrote it and he sent it to her. Out of nowhere. He says, I know you don't know me, but I'm a kid out there that rides the L every day. And I see you when I come around the loop there. And I just feel so bad that you're always in that bed hurting. And I just wanted to know that if nobody else cares, I care. And I hope you get better. Well, he kept riding. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. About 2 weeks later, he comes around and wanting to look in on his lady. And he couldn't because there was a big cardboard sign in the window. And it said, to the young man on the L, you saved my life. Bless you. Newspaper picked that up, put it on the front page of Chicago Tribune. When one heart in Chicago decided to care. That's not how they said it, to give up. One heart decided to care in Chicago. A city of 15 million people. We barely got, well, we got about 18 million in Florida. This is in one city. One guy on an L saw an old lady through a window he never knew, never met, never would ever see. I'm going to send her a card. I'm going to find out who she is. I'm going to wish her well. And he drove by and the sign just simply said, to the young man on the L, you saved my life. Bless you. See, in this world today, in this generation, the parents say, do as I say, but don't do as I do. There's nobody setting examples anymore for our young kids. And sadly, when the young kids screw up, it's mom and dad who are the first to criticize. You should know better than that. How many times I got to tell you? And we wonder why our kids aren't becoming anything of any remarkable feats or accomplishments. Well, it's hard when you're pounding them into the ground every day. It's hard when you screw up, and kids are going to screw up. And the world is right there, man. Not a millisecond passes before somebody says, "Wow, what the heck were you thinking?" Because we don't care, and we've raised a couple of generations of kids that don't care. You know why they don't care? They don't know how to care. Somewhere the dad that looked back and said, "Boy, you took some good swipes at that ball." Well, he's died. He's passed away. Now the world just tells us, "Well, you lost the game. If you weren't on the stupid team, we would have won that." Anybody in here and play ball ever hear that? I have. Not from my dad, but from the other guys who didn't have a dad like mine. I want to be that kind of dad. I want to be the guy in the L that can reach out and touch another living being. You know, it's the most popular videos on YouTube and Google and all that now. Kids screwing up. Kids punching each other out. Fights. Destruction. Willful purpose destruction. Or better, showing people doing stupid things and getting hurt badly for it. Thousands of them out there. Tens of thousands of them out there. And these kids watch those things over and over again. They're feeding on them. They're becoming part of the problem. "You idiot, look what you did. You, look what you did. You deserve what you get." If you weren't on the team, we'd have won that game. I don't know that. But that's what we've raised. That's what we've raised. And then we wonder why our kids don't care anymore. Well, they don't know how. We wonder why our kids are so negative. Well, we just put them on drugs. That'll help them. Yeah, great. Why don't we just be moms and dads like they were back in the 50s? Did you ever hear Ward Cleaver tell whatever his name was, Beaver? Beaver, you're an idiot. Never. Never. And Beaver did make some mistakes, a lot of them. But Dad and Mom were there, teaching him, working him, walking him through it, and loving him all the way. Missionary friend of mine, many years ago, we were talking about, his work in the Congo and all that. And, I was being an idiot like I always am. And he was making fun of me and I was making fun of him. And as we were laughing and spending lunch together and having a good time, at the end he says, let me tell you something, Tom. And I didn't know this until I saw it in Africa amongst the tribal people. But if you're there and there's a circle of men, and it was usually the men, the women would be behind them and would also join in, but later. If a man jumps into the circle to dance and nobody responds, well, he'll only dance for a minute and grow tired and weary and then sit down a little bit embarrassed. But if a man gets up just out of nowhere in the middle of the circle to dance and everybody's clapping their hands and hooting and hollering, running around in the circle around him, he'll dance all night until he's so exhausted he'll just fall to the ground where he is. And two of his friends will carry him over to the side and somebody else will take his place and just start dancing. If they clap, if they give him a little bit of encouragement saying, right on, man, you dance, bust a move. A little bit of encouragement and he will dance all night until he exhausts himself in the African tribes. Why can't we encourage people like that? You see, our child esteem crisis that all the psychologists told us we have now. Oh, our children are in crisis over their esteem. You know what we did? Oh, well, they'll all be equal. There'll be no winners or losers. We'll give everybody a participation trophy. We won't call them winners or losers. We'll call them champions, even though they lost every game this season. Because we don't want to hurt their feelings. For crying out loud, California just passed a law. You get in trouble if you call a girl, or a boy. Ramon. Sorry. You are a we. A we. We.
Who you are?
Are you French? Yeah, same thing, but in French. Doris, and we're careful to use that name, she is also a we, or an us. But we're talking about male's strength today. No, you're talking about our strength today. Yeah, that just blurs the lines even more. Pretty soon there'll be none of us. In fact, I don't even exist. I'm just an ethereal entity in my space who likes jerky. Nonsense. Everybody can't be the same. You know why we can't be the same? Because we're not the same. God never intended for us to be the same. He gave each one of us a print that's so unique, there's not another one like it on the planet. Tom Chenner is an endangered species. I should be on a list somewhere. There's only one of me. When I die, you might get a second-rate copy. But go with the original. I have more and more stories, but I know my time's gone. But it saddens me. Even Jesus knew the difference. Even the apostles knew the difference. They sat in the Spirit and they prayed for someone to help them because they had lost a couple of guys. And then this man Barnabas walks in and they saw Barnabas, in him a light, a spirit, a gentleness, but most of all, an encouragement. And nobody else in that day and age had either. And they said, we want him. And he went far away from Jerusalem, all the way around the Mediterranean Sea, up to what is now modern-day Turkey, to Antioch. At that time was called the city. And he encouraged the little struggling church there, and it became strong. And they were joining more and more and strengthening because of Barnabas' teaching and love and sacrifice and care. And finally, Barnabas said, we need help. I remember a guy who used to be really good at this stuff. His name's Saul. Now they call him Paul. He's a few months' journey from here. I'll go. And he went and he found Paul. And Paul writes later in one of his letters, he was so lonely and depressed. He so wanted to work for God until his brother Barnabas showed up. Threw him the bat and said, you're up, let's go. And we all know what happened after that. Paul got up to bat and out of the park it went. And God blessed his ministry and he was incredible. The greatest missionary ever, we call him. Man started more churches than Redenbacher's got popcorns. And we look at Paul now and say, what a guy, what a man, what an incredible saint of Jesus. Barnabas remembered him. Barnabas traveled the dangers to get him. Barnabas encouraged him, and Barnabas brought him back to Antioch. Come on. And they stayed there for a year, and it was a fabulous ministry. And then Paul and Barnabas sat, and Barnabas said, let's take this show on the road. And the first mission of Paul began, followed by a second, followed by a third, and finally the trip to Rome. Wow. And he evangelized half the known world. Because one man on an L sent a card. One dad in the front seat of an old Lincoln turned around and encouraged his child. One unknown apostle said, I remember a guy. I'll get him. The power of encouragement. Of all the memories that you have and all the films you've made and all the incredible successes you have, what do you remember most vividly? And he said, the day I blew up a volcano and my mom came in, looked at the mess and said, we'll get it right next time. Just let me clean this up first. Let us pray. Oh, Father, I would pray for an encourager. Even one. Young man, young girl, old man, old lady. Doesn't make any difference. Just one to bring a positive word, a kind action, a message, a handshake, a hug of assurance, and to say, we'll get them next time. Christian encouragers have got to be the most heralded in all of heaven, I believe. Let us be those kind of dads. Let us be those kinds of moms. Let us all be that kid on the L. I ask in Jesus our Christ. then we will live love in His example. Amen.